Hey there, Keitaro. My name's Andrew and I'm the essay corrector here at IELTSpodcast.com. First things first, well done for getting so far in the course, and thank you for submitting your first corrections. Each time you submit pieces of work, I'll be reading through them sentence by sentence, telling you how well you responded to the task, how well structured your essay was, correcting the type of language that you used, as well as making some grammatical corrections as I go. So first things first, I can see that you did respond okay to the task. One thing that in this question we should be aware of is that it specifically asks about doing an activity with a child. It doesn't ask about what children can do, it asks about what we can do with children. And it's important in each paragraph and in the introduction to make sure that we answer specifically the question that was asked in order to score highly on task response. I can already see that your essay is well structured, you've clearly followed our guidance there, so I'll just get going and correct sentence by sentence. So how to develop better skills and imagination. I always use the singular here. And one of the issues we could just replace with an issue. And instead of saying how to develop skills and imagination, or how to develop better skills and imagination, we could say how to better develop. So then we're talking about, because we understand that reading does develop skills and imagination, but we want to talk about things that do it better than reading. So we apply better to develop instead of to skills and imagination. So how to develop better skills and imagination, how to better develop skills and imagination is an issue we are familiar with in our modern daily life. I totally agree with the opinion. Let's say here, participating in a joyful activity with a child works much better than reading for this purpose. One thing we should do in our introduction as well is briefly outline the ideas that we will use in the body of our essay. We haven't actually, we can speak a little bit more about why. So we could say due to their engaging nature. To be engaged with a task, to give it your full attention. So firstly, playing video games can be of help. Here, when we say can be of help, it's better to say in developing. Playing video games can be of help in developing faculties. It sounds more natural, that's all, which are not attainable by reading books. And instead of speaking in the negative, we can use one word to express that, so that we don't use extra words. This is largely because children I think this needs a bit more explanation. Time spent on interactive media. For example, a recent study released by Oxford University revealed that approximately 65% of people who played the PlayStation 3 more than 3 hours a day improved their motor activity and ability to understand location in space. Good, okay. Therefore, it is clear that playing video games with a child is a good method to enhance their abilities. Cool. You have very strong grammar. Your coherence of your sentences is also very strong, so I don't struggle to understand any of it because you have a smooth writing style. I think the only thing we're going to need to do over this essay correction course is improve your academic vocabulary just a little bit, and maybe put in a bit more detail, some more expansion of your points. But let's continue. In addition to that, what can we say instead of participating in? We could say taking part in sporting activities with young people. We don't need that one. Can also help to improve other abilities, and we never need a comma before such as. And because we've got the same word here, we can just do this. And we also don't need this. So, in addition to that, taking part in sporting activities with young people can also help to improve other abilities, such as cognitive and physical abilities, through competition. Let's say other areas of the mind, such as cognitive and physical abilities through competition. Just so we're not repeating the word abilities. This is very important because people tend to exercise much harder in, let's say, competitive processes. And it provides us with enjoyable feelings. For example, playing football requires various skills and abilities simultaneously in a very short, fun time. Thus, players can maximize their cognitive and physical abilities. I think this bit is a bit inaccurate. We could say while having a delightful time, but delightful might be a bit much. I would stick with words like enjoyable or engaging. Fun is a bit informal as well, but let's leave it there for now. Therefore, I would stick with playing in this one. Playing sports with a child gives us a precious opportunity to develop various abilities. Okay, so my point with this paragraph is that we have just rounded off almost every sentence with it improves their cognitive and physical abilities. And the only real expansion on explaining that point is that it's because of competition. But we could have expanded so much more into that and talked about things like how teamwork or the playing in a team requires considerable imagination, because the young people must imagine how they can interact with their teammates in order to win the game, and it requires far more thinking than reading does. So remember that in the question it's asked us about skills and imagination, and for so far we haven't mentioned imagination at all. So that's something to make sure we include in future in terms of task response, to expand your arguments fully, to explain them as deeply as possible, and to make sure you include every part of the question. To conclude, although reading gives us a lot is a little bit informal. Let's say, although reading provides us with fundamental skills, from the examples and arguments above mentioned, this would be better here. From the above mentioned examples and arguments, I firmly believe that enjoyable activities are a better method than reading books in terms of the development of skills and imagination. Humans, with the possessive plural on it, is not commonly used. It's not very natural. We could talk about humanities, skills and abilities, but we're specifically referring to young people and children. So let's keep it accurate and on point. But now let's move on to your next piece. So, communication is less between family members of late. What do you think? Let's have a look. So it is often said that recent IT developments have increased individual private time, reducing time available for communication with one's family. Before, however, is often a good opportunity to use a semicolon. In formal writing, you should really only use however at the start of a sentence, but normally it means that the sentence it begins is related to the previous one, because we say, here is an argument, however, here is another argument. And a semicolon is used to separate two full sentences that are related to one another. So this would almost always be an appropriate use of a semicolon, and it's a good grammatical point to squeeze in to get some extra score. So I totally disagree with this opinion, because the latest technologies have enabled people to contact each other more easily and freely than before. Let's have a comma there. And those advantages apply to communication between family members as well. Firstly, nowadays, there are more opportunities to communicate with family members even if they live at a long distance than before. That's okay, actually. This is largely because IT tools such as smartphones are spread so widely, what we could say here, are so ubiquitous. Ubiquitous means everywhere. They are so commonplace that everybody would recognize them. They are part of every part of life. That everybody can connect instantly and visually at a lower cost than 10 years ago. For example, free video call applications such as FaceTime are commonly pre-installed in the latest smartphones, and users can use video call services for free regardless of distance. Such services, let's not repeat ourselves, let's use a different word, facilities. Such facilities have changed people's ways of thinking toward having a conversation with family, especially with distant family members. In addition to that, these days, people communicate with families very closely and frequently. The reason for this is also related to today's situation, in that everybody has their own mobile phone or owns a mobile phone. But what we should say, almost everybody in the developed world has their own mobile phone. To say everybody has their own mobile phone is a generalization, and it's not strictly true, so we must be specific about who we mean. An online survey conducted by Yahoo Japan illustrated that approximately 75% of people, a percentage of people, send text messages to family members during commuting time. This result suggests that many people tend to be connected with family members as much as possible. To conclude, I am strongly against the idea that communication is less between family members of late because of the reasons mentioned above. If robots do daily household chores, a choir is a singing group. If robots do daily household chores in the future, people would have more free time to spend with family at home. See, one thing I would recommend is not adding extra information or extra ideas in your conclusion. A consistent and coherent essay raises all points in the introduction, discusses them fully and separately here, and then concludes them here. A conclusion just is not to raise additional ideas. So this is quite a complex idea to raise in your conclusion. I would say if you wanted to talk about something like this, it should be mentioned in the body. But at the same time, robots doing chores in the future is not related to the question, because the question talks about what's happening now. It doesn't want to know what's happening in the future. But all in all, Keitaro, I'm very impressed with your grammar. Your coherence and cohesion in your grammar are your strongest points, which is actually quite unusual. So we just need to improve your vocabulary as well as your task response, and in order to do that, I will send you over a list, 3 lists of the most common academic words for you to study. But I look forward to your next pieces. I'll send these over to you now. Have a great day, and goodbye for now.